Today we're going to talk about building a computer for a non-adult person. I'm avoiding algorithm. Hey, you got something you think looks cool but you really wish it looked better? Well, don't fear, because Phanteks is here with their new neon LED light strips. The Phanteks neon LED strips feature smooth and diffused lighting for a more natural and old school look. Multiple mounting options allow for smooth bends through their use of strip guides complete with screw and adhesive mounting options. Their high-quality, full-color digital addressable RGB chips are compatible with most popular RGB software. To learn more and see the full compatibility list, head to the link in the description below. Now see, doesn't that look so much better? You guys have seen a history on my channel of me introducing my kids to computers at an early age. My oldest daughter, who's now 11, got her first computer when she was 3, and that was a laptop that we just gave her that she played some Flash learning games on and stuff before she could even read. By the time she was 5, she assisted in building her very first computer, and then at the age of 8, she rebuilt it again. Now that she's 11, it's like a every 3-year thing going on there, huh? Now that she's 11, she's actually been playing on a laptop ever since we moved for about the last year. She was very like, I want a laptop. Now that she's realizing laptops are not the best gaming machines. In fact, the other day she was like, Dad, every time I play Fortnite, I know, shut up. She's the right demographic for that game. She goes, every time I play Fortnite, about an hour into it, my computer just freezes and locks up. I'm like, welcome to laptops, kiddo. Anyway, she wants a desktop once again, and that got me thinking. We have another family friend who has a kid, and they were like, we want to build them or get them their first computer for their birthday. Do you build computers? And they asked that to my wife, and basically she was like, no, he doesn't really build computers for like sale and stuff. I'm like, well, I'll do it for friends and family, no problem. It's a 11-year-old who's getting their first computer, and I've had a lot of emails from people asking like, hey, I'm gonna be building a computer for my kid. What should I build them? So I really got to thinking, with all the stay-at-home stuff and the quarantine and now summertime where kids would usually be home anyway, parents need a way to shut their kids up. So I figured, why don't we go ahead and just talk about some of the ideology behind building a computer for your kid, mistakes that you could make, and ways to avoid those mistakes, and I guess just maximize your return on the parts and stuff you're gonna spend. I'm well aware this looks like an AMD sponsored video. I promise it's not. It's just the stuff we still had on the table from last time we shot. So anyway, the same thing applies to Intel, AMD, or Intel. Now but the same logic we're going to talk about applies to AMD or Intel. Now, first things first, I know someone has probably already commented, just buy them a console. We're going to talk about consoles versus PC when it comes to the next gen stuff. We're still a little ways away from seeing official pricing on that. We kind of need to know what pricing ballpark is going to be. We think $500. We'll talk about that moving forward in another video. But when it comes to computers, we're going to kind of talk about this in a three-pronged approach. We're going to talk three-pronged approach.
This is like your third video with the three-pronged
approach. Hey, Illuminati, okay? 3 points. Let's talk about how much power does a kid need? When it comes to choosing your components, you know as well as I do, every single component, whether it be motherboard, CPU, graphics card, memory, power supply, all have a low-end spectrum and a high-end spectrum. And that's where I think a lot of people start to get confused. They're like, well, where should I save money? And I think the mistake a lot of people make when it comes to building for a child is, well, I'm just gonna get them a, what is this? This is a 3400G. It's actually an okay CPU, but I'm just gonna get them like an Athlon. Because I don't think, I mean, how much power does a kid really need? Well, it depends on what they're playing. And if your kid is anything like mine, they're into more modern titles. Sure, she loves to get on Fortnite and screw around with her friends and like the custom creative maps and shoot and stuff like that, but she also really likes to play Sims with all the add-ons. She likes to play Minecraft with the shader mods. And she's been asking me about things like Battlefield and I can't remember what the name of the other title is, but these are some AAA titles that she's been asking about. Now, if you immediately cheap out and just go, I'm just gonna buy them like the cheapest motherboard I could find. This is one of the cheapest B450 motherboards you can get right here from ASRock. If you then pair that with the lowest end CPU that'll fit this socket and has BIOS support for it, you're gonna find that if your kid truly becomes bitten by the bug that I assume all of us have, or at least if you're watching this for, you're a newcomer to my channel, you're considering computers, it's like any other hobby. If you get bitten by it, you're gonna want more. And if the kid starts to experience that, then what you're gonna find is, Dad, my computer won't run this game very good. Dad, my computer won't run this game at all because you might be underneath the minimum specs of anything coming out in the future, like let's say Cyberpunk or whatever. Again, games you probably shouldn't have your kids play, but there are games that...
Could have picked a different example, maybe.
No, I don't know.
No, Kerbal Space Program 2.
Kerbal Space Program 2, there we go. Science, and actually I should get my kid playing that, see how well that goes. My point being, you experience the whole, my computer just isn't running that good anymore, and the new title that came out and suddenly humbled your PC, you're gonna experience that with them too. Now on the flip side of that, the other side of the argument is I think a lot of parents are gonna go, and by the way, I know there's a lot of parents in my comment section. I see the demographics. I know a lot of you are borderline boomers like me, at least Gen Xers. I mean, I was born in '81 and I've got 2 kids. I'm sure there's people out there that follow me and have more and probably older kids. Your biggest fear is gonna be, okay, I spend $1,000 on a tower and now that's no chump change right there, right? Suddenly you're worried they're not gonna be interested. And they're gonna have that child hobby of the month and they're gonna lose interest. I would assume if you are watching this video right now and you are interested in the topic, now you can just click it because you're an avid supporter of the channel, but you are actually watching this because you're interested in the subject matter, your child had to have at least shown some interest in computers or you wouldn't be interested in spending any money on that whatsoever. You would just get them the latest Xbox and be like, here's some skins, leave me alone. Do you know how often I get, Dad, can I have V-Bucks with your skin? Every time she says that to me, I look at her like, you know how I know when she wants new skins? I'll be sitting there on my computer, and you guys know the layout of my office. I'll be sitting there on my computer and I'm like, I feel something. I look behind me and she's just in the doorway with her phone.
With the innocent.
She stops at the door, but then doesn't come in because she's trying to work up that whole nerve of asking Dad, but Dad can sense when she's nearby, so I'll just turn around like the Emperor.
That's the funny thing.
I came home one day and she was like doing the dishes, and then I looked and she was like picking up the dog poop. I'm like, she wants something.
It's suspicious, right?
Yes, kids don't just do chores without being asked. But I'm gonna assume they've showed interest in it at least, or maybe they've showed interest in what you're doing. Maybe like me, you enjoy the hobby together with your kids and you're looking at another way to bond. It's the whole reason the Terry Crews project even happened to begin with. So my recommendation in terms of the quality of the CPU and stuff is get something more in the middle. Because let's face it, games are starting to catch up to multi-threaded CPU performance. However, with the latest competitions that have taken place in the last 4 or 5 years between AMD and Intel, this is a great time to get involved because 3000 series is amazing. The performance that you can get out of $120, $130 CPUs is so much better than you would get even 4 years ago. So it'll be able to run pretty much any title. But when it comes to pairing it with a motherboard, this kind of ties back into the discussion that we just had regarding B550. You don't have to spend a lot of ridiculous amount of money. You don't have to spend a lot of money on a motherboard though to get the full effect of CPU performance. So if you're shopping in AMD, there is the 50 series chipset, which I just kind of said B550 is sort of dumb. But if you were going with a 3300X, you could definitely go with like a B450 motherboard. Like this guy right here, believe it or not, we've used this B450M HDV ASRock board in so many different builds, and it always gets the job done. We're not overclocking with it. It gives us 2 channels of memory, a single slot per channel, so you can run 2 DIMMs. Gives us our PCI Express for our graphics card. So we still have a PCI Express 1X, so we can put a capture card or something on here. I promise you, if your kids get into computers, the conversation about live streaming is gonna come up one day. That's a moral dilemma, and that's between you and your kid. But anyway, moving forward, it gets the job done. But what you don't want to do is spend a bunch of extra money on the motherboard, like let's say this Crosshair Hero right here, that is going to cost you hundreds of dollars that's just going to be wasted that you could have put into other aspects of your system. But what that allows you to do is free up money towards other components. Let's talk about the GPU. I don't have any on the table here. Kind of circling back to the argument I made a moment ago that if you're worried about your kid potentially showing interest or not showing interest in something that you could spend a lot of money on. It doesn't change the fact that there's still value in that system. Just because it was built for a kid doesn't mean that it no longer is valuable. You could always sell it. You could repurpose it. You could use it as a server, start playing around with other types of distros of Linux, or play around with Hackintoshes, whatever. Use that system as your dummy tester for just experimenting. That's one of the ways this channel started, was I ended up with some extra components and just started, what happens if I do this? What happens if I hit it with a hammer? Stuff like that. I don't recommend hitting it with a hammer, but it always has a use and a function. turn it into a Plex server. You never know. Or just resell it. You'll lose some money, but at the very end of the day, it's not like you now have a $1,000 brick sitting on a table. It's just a brick to the person that ended up not necessarily caring about it. And not all your, look, I know we all want our kids to follow in our footsteps, and I'm a computer nerd, and I want my kid to be a computer nerd. Sometimes your kid's just a jock, or sometimes your kid's just a musician and wants to play music and doesn't care about computers. But the cool thing about computers is I've always found them, and you can use this as sort of an incentive for your kids to be interested. They're not just gaming machines. You can do anything with a computer. You can teach yourself anything. You can use it as a learning tool, an aid. I'm currently learning guitar. I'm 39 years old. I just had a birthday. And I keep telling myself I'm probably too old to learn the guitar. But then I find these stories of like some of the greatest musicians that we've ever known didn't start until they were adults. They didn't have that kid brain elasticity that made them be, you know, Bach at the age of 9. I'm not a prodigy. I've actually been teaching myself how to play using my computer. I mean, there's even things like Rocksmith that you can hook an electric guitar up to on Steam, so you can start playing a game that teaches you how to play with a real guitar. So it's a tool, it's an aid, not just for using, playing games and stuff on. That's just an added bonus, honestly. Moving on to out of my tangent though, the graphics card, we all know, is single-handedly the most influential piece of your computer that affects your gaming performance. I would much rather bottleneck a graphics card than not have a powerful enough one, if you want to know the truth. That's my personal mentality right there, because I can always upgrade the other components to maximize the graphics card. But again, because of AMD, coming out with the Navi series and NVIDIA having, a really crowded product stack, giving you like $50 options, not $50 GPU, but every $50 from about $200 and up, you're gonna find a GPU that's more than powerful enough. And that is easily the most easy to resell piece of any component. Now, one of the things we're gonna be doing here in the future is, a lot of people have asked me like, hey, your youngest is 5 now, when's she gonna build a computer? And she's been asking for a computer. The difference between today, and I think this might be the issue that a lot of parents are actually dealing with their kids and trying to get them interested in something that might seem like a dinosaur. Like computers probably look like dinosaurs to kids because of tablets and phones. When my oldest was 5, sure, smartphones and stuff were a thing, but not like today. We've got the iPads and the iPad Pros and the big tablets and the smartphones that are definitely where a lot of their interest is. That's where a lot of marketing goes, and that's where a lot of influence is. But I think if you start getting them interested in computers by letting them play on yours, before you go spending money on building them a computer, make a separate Windows profile for them. Let them get in there, play around on some Flash games and stuff. Definitely monitor what they're doing. The internet is a dangerous place for kids, and I think we all know that. But let them play around on there. Let them play some games. Just see how they react. And if they get hooked and they get interested, or maybe they're a console player and they're only used to controller, hook the controller up to your computer and still let them play. I mean, Phil plays Rocket League with a controller. I think everyone has to pretty much play with a controller. There are ways to get them interested in it. What I started to say is there's gonna be basically 3 builds for children on this computer moving forward. I'm gonna get my 5-year-old introduced into it. Even if she doesn't use it, I don't know if she will. I don't even know where I would put it, to be honest, in terms of a desktop. I want her to build one. I want her to get hands-on with it. My oldest, like I said, is suddenly like, Dad, my laptop's not cutting it anymore. And let's face it, her computer that had Ryzen is too old now. I think that has 1700X, might even be a 2700. That's old, we don't want that anymore. So we're gonna get her building a new one because her friends have desktops, and she's now the one that's like playing games at lower FPS than them, and that's not acceptable to her. She knows it, and so she's ready for a new desktop. We'll get her in building that, but I think what we'll do is we'll get her hands-on with building her first water-cooled loop, a custom-cooled loop, not an AIO like she currently has. And then the build I'm doing for some family friends and their kid, where I have a $2,000 budget. Yes, I know, that's a lot of money, but that's the entire setup. The tower, the monitor, the keyboard, the mouse, the headphones, the whole thing. Like literally turnkey, here's a completely running system ready to go. I can promise you I didn't have a $2,000 computer when I was that age, but they're able to do it for their kid, and I want to make sure that they're able to get the most out of that. So if you guys want to see that system and you're interested in the ideology between what I choose and how we budget that, because like I said, the tower, the monitor, and the peripherals alone could take up like a good quarter of the budget, at least maybe even more depending. We'll talk about that. But when it comes to building a system for your kids, I think it's a good investment. You know, one of the ways that I've always looked at this channel is I've had a lot of people message me and tell me that they got jobs in tech, went to school and got certified as like, you know, security plus, you know, doing InfoSec or information security. They got these jobs and went to college. That's how long I've been doing YouTube now. They went to college, got their degrees, and got jobs in the time that I started this channel. And just showing them my passion for computers is what kind of, you know, sparked that within them, and they have careers out of it now. Every time I go to Micro Center, some employee there tells me my videos are what made them interested and that got them that job, and now they're going to school. So it's really cool stuff. You never know who you're talking to. Could be talking to the person who cures cancer in 20 years because they're young now and they got interested, got into tech, and realized they're really smart, smarter than me, and then maybe they're doing good in the world later on. But I think it's one of those things that if you have kids, I think this is something you should introduce them to and embrace it. If they show interest, embrace it. And if you have the means to fund it, I don't think that those are wasted funds, like I've seen a lot of people try and claim when they see a kid with a nice computer. Anyway, guys, just wanted to do this sort of a talking head video with a bunch of stuff on the table that makes me look more like I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, like I said, there's gonna be some builds coming up on the future here. And I've got a video coming up that I wanna work on. I wanna see just how much heat one of these can handle. You know, I've seen people cook eggs and stuff on the CPU, and I wanna kinda go for that. I wanna see if we can cook something on it. That's gonna trigger some people.